Hello, and welcome to Chin Hairs and F-Bombs, Conversations with Girlfriends. Today, we're going to be talking about aging and identity, and I'm going to be talking with my dear friend, Rivkeh. Rivkeh, tell us
SallyAnn.
about yourself.
Well, my name is Rivkeh, and I am apparently today's lovely guest
Lovely guest.
of SallyAnn Gray, who's one of my favorite friends. Well, so I am a mom, wife, working person. I live in Maine. I used to live in Atlanta. I grew up in California. Glad I landed here with you.
I'll introduce myself too, because I kind of skip that part sometimes.
You should do it.
Yeah, maybe someone's listening that doesn't know me. I am SallyAnn Gray. I am a Midwesterner living in Maine with my hot husband and 2 feral children. So Rivkeh and I met at the gym. We're so fitness focused.
We're very fitness focused. We were back then.
Yeah.
Perfect point.
Totally badass.
Everything changes.
Yes,
Yeah.
everything does change. So we met at the gym, but now we meet over tacos.
We do meet over tacos. I do feel compelled to say, it's sort of like saying, well, we met online. I would love your listeners to understand a little bit about this gym
Totally.
where we met, because I feel like that's special.
It is.
That's the birthplace of this particular friendship.
Yeah.
Plus, I've never gotten a chance to tell you what my first impression was of you.
Oh my gosh, please tell me.
And how we met was really neat.
I agree.
So we met because there was this place, still is this place, called Co-Work Hers in Portland, Maine, started by the beautiful Heather. And my mom had passed away in the spring of 2018. And I was just starting to find my feet under me again that summer. And I worked from home, and just due to the events of my life and the age of my youngest son at that point, I really realized that I needed someplace to go that was outside our house to actually focus on working. And so I found coworkers, landed there, and probably the second day that I was there, the spectacular Kelly Flagg sat down across this desk from me. And we just started talking. And I mean, she could sell anything to anyone. And even without trying, I mean, I think I asked her to sell me something, please. And then I did absolutely buy from her a fitness membership in the basement of Co-Work Hers that had just been so adorably transformed
Totally.
into this space where we had these little small group, all female workouts with Kelly. And I just remember that SallyAnn walked in the first day, and I thought to myself, she's fabulous and she's in such great shape. And I was so not at that moment. I was clawing my way back. And I just thought, okay, I'm going to just focus on her. I'm going to do what she's doing. And it's going to all come back together. I'm going to grow up to be like SallyAnn.
Get out.
True story.
Oh my gosh. No idea.
Yes. And you were so smart and so funny. And you just brought this sparky energy. And then you said you were from the Midwest. And I went, oh, because it's the land of my people who landed in Nebraska all those many hundreds of years ago and then eventually settled in Iowa. And so there is something about that. That's because my mom was from there, and that's what love feels like to me. And so you very much embodied that. So all those things together, and I just thought, well, I'm destined to be friends with this lady.
Oh my gosh.
And here we are.
Wow.
And this summer will be our 6th anniversary.
Oh, so cute. Okay, my first impression of you.
Oh,
I thought you knew everyone there.
I thought you knew everyone there.
What?
Yes.
I knew no one.
I knew no one.
Oh my gosh.
I had just gotten there.
But you are friends with everyone. Like, you've never met a stranger. And so I was like kind of intimidated because I didn't know anyone and I felt like everybody knew each other, which is just like, I think how I felt at that time in my life. because I just wasn't from around here.
This is how women feel at all points in their life, regardless of how many people they know in any given situation.
Oh,
I have discovered this over and over and over again.
really?
It is a powerful lesson. If when you feel that way, if you can override it,
Mhm.
build an override button that says, that is a lie. It is
Mhm.
not true.
Yeah.
You're making that up and filling in a million blanks.
Right, you're writing a story that doesn't
It
exist.
literally doesn't
Oh my
exist. I
gosh.
thought the exact same thing about
That
you.
is so funny.
So I love that we had the same first impression of each other and equally inaccurate.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
really funny.
So, yes, I thought that you knew everyone there. I thought that you were best friends with all of them.
Oh my gosh.
And you, like, knocked me off my feet with, like, you're so put together and smart and confident, but the kindness is the biggest one. And I always enjoyed working out with you because every time we worked out, it wouldn't be the same group of gals.
No.
So you never knew what you were going to get when you show up to work out. And I was always happy when you were there.
I was always happy when you were there. Oh, this is neat. We've never talked about this before. It's really sweet.
Spilling my cold black heart.
Oh, for the new listeners, she does not have a cold black heart. I can just
Yeah.
let's dispel that notion.
Yeah. And that was such a moment in time
Yes.
too, because that gym doesn't operate anymore. Like, Kelly isn't doing classes in that gym anymore. The co-working space is still there, but Kelly has gone off and done something else. And like, I work out with a different trainer now. And like, that was a moment in time. And like,
Yes.
how beautiful. Like,
A magical moment in time.
it
And
was.
I almost feel like there are times where you can stop and notice.
Mm,
Other times you don't know
till
that
later.
you're in a moment that is going to evaporate, that you're going to miss so much.
Right.
Or it might just feel like your normal life. There's so much drudgery in every single day for a mom. And for people.
Yeah.
There's just, really just for people.
Yeah.
Because so much of our friendship has been based around supporting each other in mothering. I feel like
Yeah.
that is a big part of what comes up. But there is so much drudgery in just running a household,
Yeah.
being married,
Mhm.
and having children, that those are the majority of the hours of your week.
Yep.
And those workouts were like 45 minutes 3 times a week or something, I think was what it was, or twice a week.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to take up a huge percentage of your time
Yeah.
to really mean a lot.
It was a gift.
It meant a lot.
Yeah.
And it was that space, the physical space, but then it was the way we all showed up together and filled it up. There was something really lovely. That was like a little crucible.
Well, in those workouts, obviously that was physical, but it was also emotional. And like, there's something about the gym, man, that turns into therapy. And like, every time we all worked out together, there was like some topic that we landed on that meant a lot to one person in particular. And then we all talked about it together. And it was just such a gorgeous moment.
Yes. And somebody would be in there with a thing every week.
Yeah.
Somebody would need to talk about
Yep.
something, and the rest of us knew to mostly listen.
Yeah. And support.
Yeah. Also, I think I'm just having this funny thought, in the gym, because you're not staring at each other. It's kind of like how you have the best conversations with your kids in the car,
Yes.
especially when they still can't sit up front with you. But no, even once they do sit up front with you, and then I'm in the next chapter of that with my older son starting to drive.
Oh dear.
The conversations, they get even better. But I think it's the same reason. So I'm thinking about in the gym, you have to be focusing on the physical part of what you're doing. And you're so tired and trying to get through this thing that's hard, it breaks down a little bit of your barrier.
Yeah.
You don't have as much bandwidth
Totally.
to edit yourself. So your actual feelings just kind of come out. You don't even know what you're talking about half the time.
Yeah.
And then I think it's the same thing. Like I'm thinking about my son when he's concentrating on driving,
Mhm.
but we get in a conversation about something, I will learn more about him.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually really
I
interesting.
love car conversations with
Yeah, so I think
kids.
the gym was like our car.
Yeah,
That was good times, girlfriend.
it was. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about aging and identity.
Let's do it.
Okay. So I want to start with a conversation that you and I had years ago, and you knocked me off my feet with a concept I had never heard before. We were talking about, I don't know, just being a woman, just like being a woman in this life. And you mentioned the invisibility of a woman past a certain age. And I had never heard anyone say that before. And I was like a newly 40-year-old person or something like that. And I was like, record scratch. Oh shit. I know exactly what you mean.
Mm.
Like it
Mm.
just was a wild concept for me. Tell me how you've experienced that. Where did you learn that?
So I would like to pay homage to my lineage. I didn't come up with it myself. And it's funny that you say years ago. So a big part of my life for a long time, and then definitely part of kind of coming back to earth and healing after my mom died, was going on retreat, particularly Zen Buddhist retreat with my teacher. And she is a woman of a particular age ahead of us. So,
Yeah.
so she was been in her late 50s when she made this comment. And it was just on retreat, part of a Dharma talk. And it wasn't focusing on being a woman or an aging woman. I think she was saying it more in the context of when certain things get out of your way, you have an ability to go deeper in other areas. And so, very similarly, it wasn't the focus of what she was talking about. It was just something she said.
Mhm.
And I felt the same, oh, that's what's happening. So, how I've experienced the invisibility is I won't be coy and say, oh, well, I never realized I was pretty. People told me I was pretty my whole life. I was born in Pittsburgh, but my family moved to Los Angeles when I was 3 years old.
Mm.
And I had a sister who was 2.5 years younger, but she was always taller. So, and we had very similar coloring. So, dark hair, blue eyes, little matching pair of sisters.
Cute.
And often people thought we were twins.
Wow.
And so, when you're young and you connect with an idea that you're valued highly for how you look,
Mhm.
and you carry that on with you, and you're growing up in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And then we moved out of LA when I was about 9. But I will assure you that 2 hours outside of Los Angeles is not far enough for those concepts
Yeah.
to diminish. So it really is that way. Very high price. Just the whole beauty and physical beauty. And then there was some interesting stuff there too, because I'm not a California beauty in 1987.
Yeah, you're not
I
blonde.
wasn't blonde. I wasn't 5'11". But I guess the impact for me is just that it would be disingenuous to say, knowing that I was a pretty girl and getting the kind of attention that pretty girls get changes the course of your life. It has an impact in the course of your life.
Yeah, it does.
But it's the only way that you've ever interacted with the world. So you actually don't know that, especially when you're young.
Because it's your normal.
It's your normal.
Right.
And also, you don't feel pretty enough. So it's actually very difficult for you, or it was for me, to absorb the idea that anything that was happening to me in my life that was positive was because I was pretty. Because when I looked around, all I could see were girls that were prettier than I was, or girls who were thinner than I was, or had better clothes, or a cool car,
Mhm.
all of those things that you go through between the ages of, 10 and 20. Oh, having crushes on older boys and then comparing yourself as like a 13-year-old to their 17-year-old girlfriend. And it's
Oh.
just like those girls are on like another planet. So,
Yeah.
here I am having this experience of myself that's very much so feeling diminished in the context of other women or other girls. But the actual feedback that I'm getting in my life is all kinds of privilege that I wasn't aware of because I was pretty.
Pretty privilege.
Also because I was nice,
Mhm.
because I was really open. I think I had a very open vulnerability to the world. Always thought the best of everyone. I think my default was trust everybody until they give me a reason not to trust them,
Wow, that's nice.
instead of the other way around, which, as a mother, it's like, don't trust anybody.
The world is dangerous.
It's dangerous and they're all out to steal you.
Mhm.
So what came as the shock is maybe the best way to describe it, is I did finally get it in my 20s, probably. Oh, okay. So that guy isn't just nice to everybody.
Mm.
He doesn't just say, oh, you have a beautiful smile to everybody,
Yeah.
or give you the extra whipped cream on top,
Mhm.
or whatever the thing might be. I always thought it was because, well, I was nice to them first.
Yeah.
So then as I got older, I got it. I got a little more, came to terms with it. But then I think one of the most important things that happened was in my 30s. So I had Zachary when I was 31.
Mm.
And hilarious to look back at pictures because you feel like it's this big moment where, oh my goodness, and I've just changed so much and my body's out of control. I look back at those pictures of us as a little young family
Yeah.
and I'm like, who is that glorious, shining woman? Like,
I know.
I thought I was tired back then. That's so cute to me now.
Oh
It's
my
like, girl,
God.
you don't know time.
Right.
But so it's all in these like little degrees.
Yes.
And in fact, a really funny story is that I, went back to work after he was born. And when he was 3 months old, I was still breastfeeding and I was at this trade show.
Yeah.
And I just remember that bizarre experience of being in your body,
Mhm.
trying to work in a public setting while you're breastfeeding,
Mhm.
because basically your breasts are just taking up most of your consciousness.
Jeez.
Like they're just, like they're a separate entity. At the same time, they have an entire agenda and you're
Yeah.
trying to work.
Well, you're kind of slave to your boobs.
Really,
Yeah.
you are. And nobody tells you that's a 9-hour a day job.
For real.
So, but I was, doing the whole thing. And so my husband and I had it planned out and we are going to time everything. And he was integral to the
Yep.
process. I mean, it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But so here was the thing, a prospective client came up to talk to us. And so I'll say for context, this was 15 years ago. This didn't come across as offensive. This is
Mm.
somebody who went on to be a very good friend of mine. So I really want to say that. I really want to say this was not a terrible moment. This was a funny, joking moment.
Okay.
We were all standing around joking and talking, and he was asking, how did I come to the company and the whole thing? And we're just sort of having this very fun interaction, all of us. And he looks at me and says, oh, well, I can see that they're clearly focused on hiring eye candy for their trade shows.
Booth babe.
And it was very much tongue in cheek because we had already had the whole conversation of like my background in investment banking and how I came to the company as a former client.
Yeah, that you're super
It
qualified.
was very cute and respectful at the same time that he was making a joke about the fact that I looked good. And I sort of furrowed my brow and looked at him and said, I have a 3-month-old baby. That is the nicest thing you could have possibly said to me. And he was like, girl, you don't have a 3-month-old baby. You're kidding me. And
Yeah.
but it was this very weird moment for me where I felt like I was just split in half. Am I a pretty girl at the trade show? Am I a breastfeeding mom? Like I was navigating all of these transitions
Yeah.
in my identity.
Exactly.
So jump forward, I would say 6 years. I want to say I'm about 36, 7, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Still look good, still doing all my yoga, still fitting in my suits. It's all going well.
Power suit.
Power suit. But something had started to change. And also, I didn't have a little baby anymore,
Mm-hmm.
where I think a lot of moms might might resonate with this. When you're a young mom with a young baby, there's still this beautiful, glowing, mysterious aura about you to other people. Look at that gorgeous young mom with her young baby.
Yeah.
And when you're just a little older, it's like, if they notice, it's a more middle-aged mom with like a 6-year-old kid. Even if the kid's really cute. My kid was really cute. He was really cute. He still got attention in that way.
Yeah.
Not the same. And I was with my favorite therapist, much like you. And I had recently come back from New York and I had been seeing clients and I'd had a great trip. And it was just one of those times where everything had gone well and I felt like superwoman. It just was great. I felt like my whole life was really together in that moment. And I had had this awesome realization. And I said to her, Brenda, I get it. I'm not trading on my looks anymore. It's like a culmination of 15 plus years of experience in the corporate world. I'm respected as a businesswoman now. I'm respected as a mom now because I'm not a new mom. All of these different things were coming together. But I said to her, it was this cognition in that moment. If I continue to try to make it about my looks, it's going to be so painful when I can't rely on them anymore.
Yeah.
And not saying that there isn't a beauty that comes with age that's much, in my opinion, deeper and more interesting.
Yes.
I just always think of Audrey Hepburn or, so much more beautiful to me in her Barbara Walters interview when I think she was like 70, than when she was in Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Mm-hmm.
But the lightning bolt moment for me was I said to her, I get it. I get what I need to do to replace it. And she said, what? And I said, it's humor. You have to cultivate your sense of humor as you get older, because otherwise you'll just be in such grief about your fading looks. And that's how you can continue to engage with people in this way that feels very joyful and very light and bright and full of color. It doesn't have to be about physical beauty. It never does.
Yeah.
It can absolutely be what you can bring through humor. And so I noticed it consciously and I thought, okay, well, now I actually have to be funny.
I can imagine you weren't.
No, I think I was. And I think that's what I was getting was that in these interactions where a lot of my clients were still in their 20s, I kind of thought, well, how do I keep engaging with them? And I thought, oh, right, you laugh with them. And then, so to bring it full circle, back to my teacher making the comment about invisibility, I remember feeling it fade. And I can remember 2 particular moments. So one was the last time I ever felt that a younger guy noticed me.
Yep.
We were in the mall. Zachary was like about 7 years old. We'd moved here to Maine and he loved to go in the skate shop. He loved to go in Zoomies. He was
Cute.
getting super into skateboards. And I was in there with him and he was getting something. And the kid working was just being so sweet with him. They were having this little interchange. I can't remember. Maybe he said something to Zach like, oh, well, you should come work with us when you're old enough or something. And Zach said, oh, well, how old are you? And he said, I'm 17. And I said, you're 17? I said, that's crazy. I said, you could actually be not just my child, you could be mine and my husband's child. We've been together longer than you've been alive. And he looked at me and he goes, you're 37? He goes, you still look good.
Whoa.
And I literally went home to Paul and said, I just want you to know that a 17-year-old boy in the mall told me that I still look good. It made me happy for like at least 3 years.
That's what I was thinking. It's like, how long does that glow last?
3 years is the answer.
Yeah.
And I just thought, what a cutie. And it was so sweet of him to say. And I just thought, oh my goodness, well, that was nice of him. Then skip forward. I remember the moment where I went, oh, I have changed. it's in a new thing now.
Yeah.
I went to pick up my younger son, and because I was 40 when he was born, now at this point, I'm 45. It's like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And there's a group of moms that were probably around the age I was when they had their first, fully 10 years younger than I am. And they're standing around talking. And it's like talking at pickup.
Yeah.
And so I'm, saying hi to the woman who runs it. And then it was not an effort to exclude me from the conversation. It was a total lack of a blip on the radar that I was there.
Oh.
I went home to Paul and I said, the only sense I can make of it is that they assumed it was somebody's grandmother picking them up. And he
Oh my
started laughing and he was like, I'm sure that's not what it was. Honey, you're not invisible. I was like, I might be a little bit though. And I said, and actually, it's fine
Mm-hmm.
because a massive relaxation came
Ah,
with that realization.
I totally get that. Okay. I want to tell you like my realization of invisibility.
I want to hear it.
And yeah. So my whole adult life, like through my 30s, if I told someone my age, they would be like, no. And they always thought I was younger. I just like shocked a lot of people. It was fun for me, right? And I would meet someone younger and they'd be like, there's no way you're 37 or whatever.
Yes.
And it was fun for me, right? And I was just like, just like wearing this feather in my cap. I look young for my age or whatever. And then I turned 40.
Lay it on me, girl.
Uh-huh. So not only did I turn 40, I turned 40 in the year of our Lord 2020.
Mm-mm.
That was a bad year. And it was hard on me. It was hard on a lot of people. It was hard on me. I really struggled with anxiety. I isolated myself, which was safe. I mean, I was just overwrought. And after my 40th birthday, I have never since heard, you look young for your age or some variation of that. Not even once.
Because we all aged 10 years
Yes, we did.
in 1 year.
Yes, we did.
You can look at our pictures from 2019 and match them with our pictures 2021, and it literally looks like we all aged a decade.
Yeah. So I have a double whammy there.
100%.
I turned 40 the year of 2020.
The year of our Lord.
And it's been a little shocking because it was just a flip of the switch.
Right.
The other part of realizing I'm invisible is I used to get flirted with a lot. And so I haven't had a casual flirting. I haven't had a stranger flirt with me in literal years. And so that does make me feel invisible. It's like the before and after.
Yeah. So when that goes away, there's like a little bit of a dimming, you already feel a dimming effect in your body and your ability to access your vocabulary and all these different things.
Yeah.
And then there's just like a little bit less vibrancy in relations with people, just those little interactions. And I also think it's tough for us to say because you make a great point. You turned 40 in 2020. All interactions have changed.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Right?
I think I'm also more closed off than I used to be.
Oh, I have to like rip myself out of myself consciously to do it differently again.
Me too. For me, some of it is, is mental health struggles, but also I have just closed myself off. And I do believe that is a part of this. Like if you're closed off, people sense that vibe.
For sure.
But I mean, no, nobody flirts with me. So regarding that invisibility though, something as I have gotten accustomed to being invisible, I see there is power in it.
100%.
Exactly. So, something they say about being in your 40s and getting older, I mean wiser, JK, is that you get fewer fucks. And I was like, sign me up for that, please. And that is part of it. Like, if I feel like I can fly under the radar, like, cool. I don't give a fuck about you. You don't give a fuck about me. Like, there is power in not being noticed because you can just do what you want and be who you want and wear what you want. And apparently nobody else cares.
Right.
And it's like, good, fine. And I think also you can kind of sneak up on them with your power. They didn't
Yes.
see that coming.
Yes.
Like, if you come in guns ablazing on an idea or something, they didn't expect that
Mm-hmm.
because they weren't noticing you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, you know what? You probably should notice me because
Mm-hmm.
I'm a badass bitch.
I totally agree with that.
So we've touched on it. I call it the death of fuckability. Mm-hmm. And there is an amazing, there's a wonderful sketch by Amy Schumer,
Oh, God.
and it's called The Last Fuckable Day. And it's Amy Schumer, Tina Fey, Julie Louis-Dreyfus,
Who has the best podcast right now,
has
too, by the way, everybody.
agreed. They were celebrating, I think it was Julie Louis-Dreyfus, her last fuckable day in Hollywood.
Oh, my goodness.
Because she had reached a certain age. So let's talk about sexuality and aging.
Mm-hmm.
So our bodies have changed.
Have they ever?
Uh-huh. Our faces have changed. And you and I have been in very long-term relationships, i.e., they have seen us when we were young and nubile.
Yes.
So you have been with your mister for 28 years?
Yes, it will be 29 in a month.
Amazing. And I have been with my mister for about 22 years.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was rocking it back then.
Yeah, I was 18 and he had just turned 20 when we met.
Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
And I was 21 and Ben was 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how has your age and identity maybe changed your kind of sexuality and with your husband? Has it? Maybe it hasn't.
Oh, no, it's exactly the same as it was when we were 18 and 20. Nothing's changed. I have to say this first. Did you ever watch the show 6 Feet Under?
No.
It was one of our favorite shows, and we were watching it when we were in our 20s. And there was an older couple. This is like in the first episode. I think you find this out. There's an older couple. They've been together a long, long time. Then you find out that the woman has had an affair, and they're kind of trying to figure it out. And the husband dies suddenly, like in the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, the wife is having very conflicting feelings because the marriage was in trouble. And she's talking to someone at some point. It might even be her daughter. And they're kind of saying, like, the marriage was in such trouble. You didn't really seem very in love. Basically saying they were having trouble understanding her overwhelming grief about the loss of her husband when so much had clearly gone wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And she has this line where she says, "He's the only one who knew me when I was young and beautiful."
Whoa.
And I just dissolved into tears, even at that moment, even still being young and beautiful, as I would have been at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at Paul and I said, "You're the only one who remembers me when I was young and beautiful." And he looked at me and said, "You are still young and beautiful." I said, "But someday I won't be young. Maybe you'll still think I'm beautiful. But no matter how old we ever get, that's going to really be primarily how your heart sees me. There's actually nothing you can do to change that. You really don't ever see that person how the rest of the world sees them. Even if in moments you can notice a thing here or there. Oh, you've gotten these lines.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have as much hair as you used to have. You know, whatever.
Or you have more hair in different spots.
Oh boy, that's so much more traumatic. Nobody ever wants to talk about that. But right, that's just a stark, startling reality, those changes when they actually happen to you. But for me, having been with him for so long, I benefit from that. I benefit from still having the opportunity, if I'm willing to take it, to see myself through his eyes.
Oh,
Because if you're just only looking at it from your own eyes, it's harsh. We're not nice to ourselves all the time. Although I'm much better at it now than I used to be.
good for you.
That has really changed.
I don't think I should look in the mirror as closely as I do. I think I should get away from the magnifying mirror.
I mean, you look so gorgeous. I'm looking at you. Maybe it's this lighting in this room or something, but I mean, you just look sort of airbrushed anyway. So
It is the lighting in this room. The
let's
other
go
day,
with that.
Ben came down here and he said, "Are you wearing makeup?"
Mm,
And I was like, "It's tinted sunscreen."
because we're fancy like
I
that.
am fancy like that.
But to honestly answer your question, everything changes. It changes, whether or not you get pregnant and have a baby. It's just getting pregnant and have a baby is like monumental.
Yeah.
Get pregnant and have a baby is a way to like really put the pedal to the metal and just accelerate the process.
Yeah. Changing your body.
It's just shocking.
Yeah.
And even if people say, "Oh, I'm back to the same weight." And I'm like, "Yeah, but do your jeans fit?" And they're like, "Nope, everything's in a different place now."
It is in a different place.
It's weird. And so I feel like you have two choices. You can either sort of just ignore the whole situation or you can really dive into it and just say, "Yes, this is what is happening to me." And you don't have to love it every day. I have not loved it most days. There are days where it's about how you look, and that is just frustrating or sad.
Mm-hmm.
There are other days where you feel great about it. It's really a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
And it's tied up in everything else that's going on in my life at the same time.
Yeah.
My overall satisfaction with my life really directly impacts my overall satisfaction with my body. It's not the other way around.
Yeah.
I'm old enough to realize that now. There is no moment where, and I got to this weight and then I was happy.
Mm-hmm.
It was, and then I came to a moment where I was happy and my weight happened to be this at the same time. And it might be a bigger number or a smaller number, very much so unrelated. The lowest weight I ever was in my life was one of the most stressful times in my life because of my work situation. So, to directly address what I think you're asking, there has been a lot of grief in my life in the past few years around my own body and the way that it changes, the way that it is changing. Going to my annual checkup with my OBGYN and saying, "I don't think the way that I feel on a daily basis can be blamed on the pandemic forever." Now that it's, at that point, summer of 2022. And I said, there's a lot of normalcy that's come back into the world and I'm not coming up the curve emotionally.
Yeah.
And she said, "Remind me how old you are." And I said, 45. And she said, "Tell me about this and that and the other thing." And that's a good doctor who asks a few extra questions
Yes.
and says, "This is probably perimenopause."
Yeah.
And did you know that's a 7-year process?
And did you know that on average it starts 38 to 43?
That's right. So 43,
Mhm.
44, right?
Yeah.
And right. So all of that came crashing in at the same time.
Yeah.
So who knows if I would have started to massively struggle with depression with or without the pandemic, but I did. And so then after years and years of saying, "I will never go on an antidepressant. I don't want to do that. Here's all the million reasons why." She said, "You're sounding to me today like you're maybe open to trying something." And I said, "I will literally do anything right now.
Uh-huh.
I have to try something."
I know that desperation.
Desperation.
Yeah.
And so I made that choice. And so that'll change your body. That'll change things.
That'll change your sexuality too.
Yes. It was the first
Very
question I
much.
asked her. I said, "So talk to me about this." And she said, "Well, this is why I like this one particular medicine because it tends to impact that less," which is true, but it has other effects.
Yep.
And, so you have to balance it all out. Every person is different.
Yeah.
Every body is so different. But again, navigating those changes and navigating them with my husband.
Yeah.
And you have to be brave to have those conversations.
So brave.
Really brave.
Yeah.
Like you can be with somebody almost 30 years and still realize there are things you are very It's just hard to say it out loud.
Yeah.
And they're changing too.
Yeah.
Men's health is really a thing and very important to the women that are married to them. Really, really important. And they are going through changes also. And some you expect and others you don't.
Yeah.
My husband is a very athletic guy, always has been. He's very adept at learning new physical endeavors, and he loves to do that. And we moved here when he was like, I don't know, 39 or something. And he was like, I'm going to start mountain biking. And now he's this great cyclist and he road rides and he's a bike mechanic now. It's like, so this has always been this huge part of his personality. And when you're young, you can be like that and you can fall and hurt yourself and you hop back up because you're made out of rubber band and, rubber cement and all other rubber things that just bounce and stretch and
Yeah.
come back in their original shape.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, he was riding in a race and he hit a muddy bridge and the bike went one way and he went the other. And he hurt his ribs and he tore a bunch of stuff in his lower body. And you do that in your early 40s, it has all kinds of effects you don't expect.
Yeah.
You don't heal the same way. You don't, and so it's all of those different things. And every single one of those things impacts what is going on for you sexually,
Yeah.
for men and for women, definitely for us.
Yeah.
And you've got to just follow all of those roads down to the end to sort of address the way that it's impacting you.
Yeah. It takes open communication to do that,
Yeah. And
and
it's,
honesty,
oh,
and to be vulnerable, to have some of those conversations. You have to have deep trust. Not every relationship has that.
right.
Yeah.
Deep trust, deep vulnerability,
Mhm.
willingness to engage professionals. That's a huge part of it too.
Yeah, you're right.
Being willing to go to doctors that may
Right.
have to do invasive, uncomfortable things, testing, all that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's one thing to have the conversation with your partner. It's another to go to a medical professional and say, I'm having trouble with whatever
Mhm.
it is.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
we've moved into that phase of life. Just getting older, seeing your friends get sick. Your actual identity changes. You change as a person. I am not the same person I was 5 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I we also have lived through so much more loss just because we have reached an age that
Right.
we have lived through a lot of loss, and that changes you. That changes your priorities. For me, that was the biggest thing, was changing my priorities. All the losses and the grief that I have experienced have made the big things more important and the small things not fucking matter. And I appreciate that change of perspective.
Mhm.
It's too bad I had to hurt so bad to get there
Ugh.
for many different reasons, losing a loved one.
Mhm.
So for me, with the changing of body and face and aging
Mhm.
and my relationship and sexual identity, I went through a period where I was so uncomfortable with how my body had changed
Mm.
that it impacted my sex drive.
Right.
It's like lights out, sex was infrequent, and I had to get over that shit.
Mm.
And that took work.
Mhm.
And have I lost weight? Yeah. And does that help? Yeah. I think something else that has made a major positive impact for me was weightlifting, because
Mm.
weightlifting has given me body confidence.
Right.
Even if I had extra pounds, even when I've had extra pounds, and I still have extra pounds, like whatever, the body confidence that I gained from knowing that I am a strong bitch, like
Yes.
I am a strong motherfucker,
Yes.
has impacted how I feel naked.
Yes.
And that has been a very good thing to add in. And we all, especially women over the age of 40, need
Mhm.
to be doing weight training to combat the muscle loss, for sure, to combat our metabolism slowing,
Yep.
and also bone health.
Bone loss. Exactly.
Huge on bone loss.
Yes.
So it's good to do. It's good for your body. But the thing I didn't know would come out of it, and
Mhm.
I've been lifting weights regularly for a year and a half, is this body confidence. And that improved my sex life. I was
Mm.
like, what?
Yep.
And having conversations with my mister about my insecurities
Yeah.
and what's going on with me, and getting some confirmation or reassurance from him to what you said was that he does still see me as like the 21-year-old that he met.
Absolutely.
And I didn't know that. He had to say it out loud. I believe him.
Yeah.
It makes sense because I see him as that 20-year-old.
Right.
So we had to have some open, hard conversations, some really vulnerable conversations, talking
Mhm.
about our own insecurities and showing each other where we were struggling.
Mhm.
And we were able to move forward from there. And we were able to see each other from each other's viewpoint better. And that has positively impacted our sex life.
I think that's such a valuable thing to share. These are the kind of conversations that are very difficult to have with friends too.
Yeah.
Something that I've run up against a lot is that when you have been with somebody for a really long time and you are still really in love and they really are still your best friend,
Mhm.
of course, we as girlfriends will make the jokes, right? Like, so how was your day? Well, he's lucky he's alive. I
Yeah.
know, girl, you just let me know when I need to bring a shovel to your backyard. I'll meet you in the middle of the night, and it's like, of course we make those jokes. Like, so did he make it through the morning? Yeah, well, just barely. We'll see how he does in the afternoon, or any of those jokes, but they are truly jokes, and they're the jokes that we make so that we can get through the difficulty of just living life with all of these people running around and needing you all the time.
Yeah.
But I feel like that thing that we do, the bonding over the joke of how we're going to kill our husbands, is code for I actually do have a lot more to say about this. It is actually really hard. I actually did really scream at my family almost every single day for an entire year, starting with the lockdown. I
Mhm.
started keeping track in my journal of whether or not I had screamed at my family that day. Whereas before the pandemic, or even go back to when Zach was little, I could have counted on one hand the number of times I yelled at that little boy
Mhm.
in his whole life. And I was yelling, not raising my voice or speaking intensely, yelling to the point that when I would stop yelling, I would wonder if at some point my neighbors could hear and were wondering whether they should call in outside assistance because there was just so much yelling. That is not funny. That is not funny. And when that in that appointment with my OBGYN, that was what I was able to share with her. It wasn't like, "Oh, things are hard, but they're always hard. Ha ha."
Mhm.
I was like, "I can't make sense of my life. I can't find joy in our family unit anymore, and it used to be a sanctuary." And it was the ability in that moment with her having a trusting relationship with my healthcare professional, which is harder and harder to find these days.
Yes.
Don't even get me started on that. If you can find a doctor who doesn't have you scheduled to a 6-minute appointment, hold on to them for dear life.
Yeah.
And we are finding more and more healthcare popping up like that in little places. Talk to your friends, see who they like, because I will say that this entire process, everything that we've just talked about, the aging, the relationship with my body, the relationship with my husband, his ability to come through different physical challenges and heal, which has required multiple doctor's visits, imaging, medication, physical therapy, every single possible iteration of healthcare that you could possibly imagine, and our wonderful therapist that we had for years and years in Atlanta. We have done none of this without outside support.
Mm.
It, you have got to call in resources. And again, it's like, oh, easy for you to say, lady with time and health insurance. It is really stunning to me how difficult it can be to just get the support that we need to feel normal, how much you have to have at your fingertips to help you do that.
And it's still hard.
It's still so hard.
And we have privilege.
And we have privilege, and we also have each other. We have time to talk. I mean, we just even have time to talk. And just even the closeness of a friendship to be able to really talk real talk.
Yes.
Because although you and I do make those jokes, we also have shared our real stories.
Yeah.
You know things
Yeah.
nobody else knows. Oh, and I was going to say that too, that when you're with somebody for a long time and you live someplace for a long time and your friends are this kind of community, you do sometimes, or I certainly have, run up against moments where I do have things that I would like to be able to say, or I would like to be able to share, or difficult things have happened in my marriage. And I keep them to myself out of respect to my husband,
Right.
because to share them would actually be a breach of his privacy, dignity, our intimacy as a couple.
Right.
Which is sometimes why you end up sitting next to like a stranger on an airplane and pouring out your heart, because you're never going to see that guy again. Whatever. Like I've had those conversations too, where all of a sudden you think, I can't believe I just told that person everything. And it's like, right, because they don't know who you are and you're never going to see them again.
That's a great point.
And we've had less opportunity for that too.
Right. Yeah.
The pour your heart out to a stranger situation. But all of that being said, that's been an entire piece of navigating the changing body and relationship with myself. Is my husband is integral in that. And our experiences are very much tied together. And then there are parts that I'm affected by and revelations that occur that I would love to share, but I won't.
Yeah.
And so there is part of it you have to handle on your own.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like in order to handle that part of your life with integrity, you have to get the outside help that you have access to. Maybe that's your girlfriends. Maybe that's your girlfriends who have therapists who have good advice to give you secondhand. Take it.
Yeah.
And then if you do have the ability to get additional help, I mean, really take it.
Right.
I've needed all the help that I can get.
We can't navigate this life on our own.
No.
You can't be an island.
No.
Rivkeh, thank you for sharing. And now I'm going to do story time with your gal pal, Sal.
I am so excited. Nobody ever tells me a story.
And you've never heard this one, which is fun.
Even better.
I'm going to share a story related to identity. So over the years, I have had so many nicknames. So many nicknames. My name on my birth certificate is SallyAnn. But when I was growing up from like 0 on, everybody called me Sally. Nobody really called me SallyAnn. My family of origin, they call me Wally. And that's one of those nicknames that you do not remember the origin. Like I've had this nickname for so long. If you say, Sally, how'd you get that nickname? Literally don't know. Like my dad doesn't know. He invented it. He doesn't know. It's just canon at this point. And then growing up, elementary through middle school, I got the nickname Salamander, which is cute. And then in high school, girlfriends started calling me Sal. And then, I love this one. I got the nickname Wavin' Sal.
Say more.
Yes. So in my neighborhood, I lived out in the country. And when you live in the country, in Kansas, the only wave that you're going to get, everybody has their hands at like 11 and 1, not 10 and 2, but like 11 and 1. And the wave that you're going to get from a farmer is 1 finger up or 2 fingers up. That's the wave. That's the country wave.
The steering wheel.
Off the steering wheel. That's the country wave. Not Sal. Sal does this big, like it starts at the elbow wave, huge wave, mouth opens, big smile when I see someone I know. And so the neighbors, I learned this from them years into it. They were like, oh yeah, we call you Wavin' Sal. Wavin' Sal's coming through. Wavin' Sal. And I still do it. I wish
everybody could actually see you doing this.
I know. I have a pal that I wave to every morning when I drive the kids to school, Wave and Sal coming through. I love to wave at the flaggers in construction
Me too.
because it totally throws them off.
I do the same thing.
I love it. And they're like, "Do I know her?" And it's like, "Nah, that's just Wave and Sal pulling through." High school girlfriends, that's like when Sal started, people calling me Sal. And it wasn't until I was about 17 that the name SallyAnn actually like came people started calling me that, and it was because of a teacher of mine, and he was just like really straight-laced, and he called everybody by their long name, by their, God-given name.
Yeah.
And he only knew me as SallyAnn. And it wasn't until then that I was like, "Oh, that's actually a cool name." Because I had thought for so long that I sounded like a hick. "Hey, y'all, it's SallyAnn." And
Well, if you say it like that, you do.
well, that might be true. But I so desperately didn't wanna sound like a hick. And anyway, but I realized that SallyAnn is actually a cool name.
Yes.
And then in college, I got the nickname Super Sal
Mm.
because I was on a road trip. I was the driver. My headlight went out. And I had these 3 girlfriends in my car, and I fixed it myself, and they were just all so impressed. I was totally 18 years old, and they were just like, "You're magic." So I was super Sal for fixing my headlight. And then
Because everybody's so inept that you can just do something really, really
it was a
straightforward.
connection.
It's
It
so
was
good.
just a connection, and I reconnected it, and they were like,
See,
"Wow."
you were always a connector.
Yeah. And then in my 20s, friends started calling me Sal Pal.
Love that one because it just describes you perfectly.
I love it too. And then only recently, like 2 years ago, my dear friend Lynn started calling me her gal pal Sal. And I just love it. It's fun. She and her partner call me GPS, gal pal Sal. Oh my gosh. So, my name has changed a lot over the years, and I love nicknames. When I was in college, going by Sally or Sal, I worked in the theater department. It was a marketing internship, and I was like in PR, I was writing press releases. And so people would call me at the theater department in my office. Here's the thing, one of the professors in the theater department, her name was Sally. So we had 2 Sallys, and I was receiving phone calls because of my job, and she would receive phone calls because she's a freaking professor, and she was there first. So I was like, "Uh-oh, I have to go by a different name here." And so I decided to go by SallyAnn,
Yes.
but I wasn't used to going by SallyAnn. And so I was how do you combat this? Not being used to because I would receive calls and I'd be like, "Who's SallyAnn?" And so I made all of these printouts in bright, like neon colors. And it said over and over, it said, "Your name is SallyAnn." And I cut them out. And so posted all over my office. It was a shared office. I had, "Your name is SallyAnn. Your name is SallyAnn." I had it posted next to the phone so that when I was talking with someone, I would identify myself as SallyAnn, not Sally. And they were posted all around the room so I couldn't forget. And so you walk into this office, and all over the place are these psychotic messages and these bright colors saying, "Your name is SallyAnn. Your name is SallyAnn."
It's like the missing scene from the Black Swan or something. It's so crazy.
Also, like Memento.
Yes, or
Like,
like The Machinist or like
how do you not know?
like
Oh,
we're having this conversation about identity, and I'm just thinking like all these movies where that's like the main theme of confusion and loss of self. You were having a total existential crisis. You didn't even
absolutely.
know it. You just thought it was like Post-it notes.
Yeah. Existential crisis,
Oh my gosh.
20 years old.
But I'm also thinking that, like, then for anybody else who saw it, it was
Yes.
Your Name is SallyAnn, and I'm thinking of, like, isn't there a scene in Game of Thrones where everybody's saying that they're like, "I am the guy, no, and I am the guy," and, like, the whole thing is like,
Yeah.
"We are one." It's like,
Yeah.
"You are SallyAnn, I am SallyAnn."
Well, if you walk into that room, you don't know that I made those
Oh
printouts.
god, it's so good.
Did my boss make them?
No.
Was I having a problem?
No, it was you.
It was me.
Well, I mean, you
Oh,
were having a
I
problem, but
was
you were also
having a
the same one
problem.
solving it.
Oh my god. Your name is Sally
Your
Ann.
name is SallyAnn.
Your name is Sally Ann. Oh, your name is Sally Ann.
Oh my gosh.
All right, this is our sharing time. So now I would like both of us to share something that's bringing us joy.
Mm,
I'll start.
go.
The thing that's bringing me joy right now is my new doctor. She is a DCP, that is direct care physician, and I get her full attention for a whole hour.
Yes.
And how cute is this? Her name is Dr. Sal. For real. Everybody calls her Dr. Sal. So I go by Patient Sal. When I email her, I sign off Patient Sal. I go, Dr. Sal, love truly, JK,
No,
Patient Sal.
perfect.
So cute. But I love my DCP. I get to see her. She actually gives a fuck about my whole body and my whole person and my whole brain.
They do.
Yeah. And I'm going to do an episode about DCPs and about medical care.
I'm glad that that is bringing you joy.
Yeah, my doctor is bringing me joy. It's shocking. So what's bringing you joy?
My book club.
Yay.
Mhm.
Say more.
I was an English major. If you major in English, the minute you graduate, you don't read a book for 5 years.
Oh.
That's what happened to me.
Because you had required reading.
It was so much reading,
Yeah.
and I mean, there's no way to actually describe how much you read and write in those 4 years.
Wow.
So I really honestly didn't pick up a novel for 5 years. So from like 20 to 25 years old, I didn't read anything. Then life, children, when do most women read?
Never, never a clock.
They read when they get into bed at night.
Yeah.
I'm just going to read before I go to sleep. So we read how many pages? 1.
I know.
1.1 pages per night.
Yeah.
So then, you can read like 1.7 books a year. It's good. It works out well. A dear friend of mine said, I really want to start a book club, and it's going to be a book club where we actually read the books and then we actually meet once a month and we actually talk about them.
That is an uncommon book club.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I said, I want to be in that book club. And it is actually a book club.
Cool.
And the thing I love the most about it is that it's a group of women who would never have come together on our own.
Mm.
None of us are best friends, except the woman who started it is one of my best friends. So I have one of my best friends as the main person, and all of these other women were brand new in my life.
Cool.
And most of them were also brand new to each other or knew each other a little.
Yeah.
We have bonded together as this special little moment in time group. And the reason it is bringing me so much joy, aside from the fact that it's this one night a month that I count on, aside from the fact that I love the books we're choosing because they're interesting, smart books that I also wouldn't have chosen myself.
Sure.
So many different reasons. But the part that feels the most magical about it is that when I lost my mom, I know this sounds so funny when I say it to people, but I quickly realized that she would talk to me through my bookshelf, books that I'd had for years that I would actually have no recollection of having, that all of a sudden would almost like jump out to me. And I would be like, I don't even remember having this book, but I kind of feel like it's been here all along. And I would open it up and it would be like exactly what I needed to hear.
Wow.
And that happened more than once. So I always have had this sort of lighthearted joke. My mom talks to me through my bookshelf.
Oh.
When my mom was in her 40s, she ended up in a book club with the exact same number of people as I have in my book club. And when my mom had to have surgery, those were the ladies who took turns bringing us food.
Oh.
They were this support system that came together for her, and it wasn't made up of her best friends. And here I find myself at the exact same age in a group of women, the exact same number of us doing the exact same thing.
That's really lovely.
So that's bringing me a ton of joy. And I feel like it's a present from my mom.
Yeah. Mm. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for giving me the chance to.
Rivka, thank you so much for joining me on my couch
Thank you for having
in
me.
the lady
I
lounge.
love it here.
This was delightful. I'm
Abs-
so glad we did it.
Absolutely. Such a joy.
Thank you.
Thank you for making the space.
Yeah. So, to all of our listeners who are still listening, thank you. Thanks for hanging out. I have a request. My request is I'm guessing since you made it to the end of this podcast, you enjoyed yourself. So, tell a friend, send this podcast or one of the other episodes that you loved to a friend. Share it, please. And maybe talk about it and have a conversation about aging and identity with your friend. So, thank you for being here. Thanks for listening. I hope you have already subscribed or followed me. And I look forward to the next time I get to talk to you on Chin Hairs and F Bombs.